Imagine you are sitting on a train. It is rush hour. You're tired, cramped, and just want to get to work. You look at the young man sitting next to you. He looks normal. He has a backpack. You don't think twice about it. But you should. Because in exactly 10 seconds, that backpack is going to turn this train car into a tomb. Today, we are not talking about distant wars or nuclear fallouts. We are diving into the most catastrophic, bone-chilling bombings in history that didn't involve a mushroom cloud. We are talking about the moments when the world ended for thousands of people in the blink of an eye. And trust me, dude, the last story on this list involves a school, a farmer, and a motive so petty it will make your blood boil. Let's get into it. The London bombings. The date is July 7th, 2005. The vibe in the city is actually electric because London had just been announced as the host for the 2012 Olympics. It is the kind of morning where you feel like nothing could possibly go wrong. You are a commuter. Maybe you are heading to a finance job. Maybe you are just a student trying to get to class on time. You squeeze into the underground train at King's Cross Station. It is peak rush hour. The air is hot, sticky, and smells like recycled coffee. You are standing shoulder to shoulder with strangers who, honestly, would sell their souls for just 5 more minutes of sleep. Standing near you are 3 young men. They don't look like monsters. They look like guys you might play FIFA with. There is 30-year-old Mohammed Siddiq Khan, 22-year-old Shahzad Tanweer, and an 18-year-old named Hasib Hussain, a kid who literally still had teen angst scribbled in his diary. They have backpacks. You assume they are full of books, gym clothes, maybe a laptop. You do not assume they are packed with homemade organic peroxide-based explosives. But as the train rattles out of the station, these guys aren't thinking about the Olympics. They exchange affirmative nods, split up, and board different trains. At 8:49 a.m., you are minding your own business, scrolling on your phone, when your world turns white. A survivor recalls seeing a sudden blinding white flash followed immediately by an all-consuming blackness. It isn't just dark. It is a suffocating, thick darkness filled with smoke and the smell of burning flesh. For a second, you think you have gone blind. Then, the screaming starts. When the dust settles and your eyes adjust to the gloom of the tunnel, you realize the carriage has turned into a massive steel coffin. Train parts are twisted like aluminum foil, pinning passengers in positions that the human body was never meant to be in. One survivor looked down at the floor and saw a gaping hole. But that's not the worst part. Inside that hole was a man who was missing his legs. The blast had just erased them. But if you think that is the most gruesome detail, you are wrong. On another train, the eastbound Circle Line, a guy named Philip Duckworth is sitting next to the bomber, Shahzad Tanweer. They make small talk. Tanweer looks chill. Then he stands up and detonates. Duckworth is thrown across the carriage. When he wakes up, he realizes he can't see out of one eye. Doctors later find out that the explosion had blown a chunk of the terrorist's shin bone directly into Philip's eye socket. Let that sink in. You are just commuting to work and suddenly you have a stranger's leg bone lodged in your skull. Police and paramedics swarm the tunnels within minutes, but it is a nightmare. The tunnels are deep, dark, and filled with choking smoke. First responders are slipping on blood, trying to triage people who are dazed, covered in soot, or picking up their own severed limbs like it's just another Tuesday. But the terror isn't over yet. While the underground is chaos, the baby of the group, 18-year-old Hasib Hussain, is still above ground. His train was delayed, or he missed his cue, so he is improvising. He walks out of the station, calm as a cucumber, and boards a double-decker bus. Because of road closures from the earlier blasts, this bus is rerouted. Ironically, about 50 passengers get off the bus because of the detour, unknowingly saving their own lives. But not everyone is that lucky. At 9:47 a.m. in Tavistock Square, Hussain detonates. The blast is so violent, it peels the iconic red roof off the bus and launches it skyward like a discarded toy. The frame of the bus is left smoldering in the middle of the street. In a twisted stroke of irony, the bus exploded right in front of the British Medical Association building, where a conference full of doctors was taking place. They rushed out in their suits to try and save lives on the pavement, but for 13 people on that bus, it was already too late. London was under siege. The entire transport network shut down. The city was paralyzed. But as horrific as this was, these were backpack bombs, homemade devices. What happens when you take that same hatred, but instead of a backpack, you load it into a truck? And instead of a few pounds of explosives, you use 12,000 pounds of military-grade TNT. Well, you get the single largest non-nuclear explosion in history up to that point. And let me tell you, what happens to the human body when it is hit by that kind of shockwave is something you are not ready for. The Beirut bombing. If London was a tragedy of stealth, this was a tragedy of sheer, overwhelming force. The year is 1983. You are a U.S. Marine stationed at the Beirut International Airport. It is a lazy Sunday morning. Maybe you are doing laundry, maybe you are writing a letter home, or maybe you are just thinking about the powdered eggs at the mess hall. You feel safe. You have guards. You have barbed wire. But safety is an illusion when a yellow Mercedes-Benz truck is barreling towards you with a payload that sounds like a typo. This wasn't just a truck. It was a mobile weapon of mass destruction, carrying 12,000 pounds of TNT. To put that into perspective, the London bombers used backpacks. This guy brought enough explosives to turn a city block into a crater. The guards at the gate didn't even have time to react. The truck smashed through the barbed wire perimeter like it was wet tissue paper, crashed into the lobby of the 4-story barracks, and detonated. The explosion was so violent that it didn't just blow the building up. It lifted the entire structure off its foundation before slamming it back down. The 4-story building pancaked into a single layer of rubble in a split second. If you were asleep inside, you didn't wake up. If you were awake, you were suddenly buried alive under tons of concrete and steel. But the true horror started when the dust settled. Imagine you are a Navy hospital corpsman who survived the blast. You scramble to your feet, your ears ringing, dust coating your lungs. You grab your medical bag to help your brothers. You look inside and your heart sinks. You have 8 bandages and 1 chicken wire splint. That is it. You are staring at a scene of apocalyptic destruction with a first aid kit meant for a scraped knee. You start running through the rubble and you see a Marine waving you down. You rush over, adrenaline pumping, ready to save a life. But when you get close, you freeze. The Marine has a massive chunk of his forehead missing. His brain is exposed. And to make it worse, a 45-pound slab of concrete is pinning him to the ground. He is looking at you, waiting for you to save him. But you do the math. You have 8 bandages. You have 1 splint. You cannot save him. In one of the darkest moments of your life, you have to make the call to walk away and leave him there so you can save someone who actually has a chance. That is a level of trauma that doesn't go away. Elsewhere in the wreckage, a Marine veteran named David Madaras isn't waiting for heavy machinery. He grabs a sledgehammer and starts swinging at the concrete slabs with his bare hands, desperate to pull survivors out of the tomb. It is chaotic, it is loud, and it is hell on earth. And just when you think it can't get worse, another explosion rocks the city. The terrorists didn't just target the Americans. A few miles away, another bomb leveled the French military compound, killing 58 paratroopers. By the end of the day, over 200 people were dead. Beirut was a war zone. You expect danger in a war zone. You expect enemies. But what happens when the enemy isn't a soldier or a terrorist organization? What happens when the person trying to kill you is your neighbor? The guy who fixes the lights? The guy who smiles at you every morning? And what if the target isn't a military base, but an elementary school? Well, you get the Bath School disaster. And believe me, dude, the motive for this one is so petty, it makes the violence even more sickening. The Bath School Disaster. If the previous entries were stories of war and terrorism, this is a story of pure, unadulterated spite. The year is 1927. You are a student at the Bath Consolidated School in Michigan. It is May 18th, the very last day of the school year. You are sitting at your desk, buzzing with that specific type of excitement that only exists when summer vacation is minutes away. You are thinking about swimming, baseball, and freedom. You are not thinking about the basement beneath your feet. But you should be, because directly under your classroom, there are hundreds of pounds of dynamite wired to a timer. And the man who put them there isn't a foreign invader. He is Andrew Kehoe, the school's caretaker and electrician. He is the guy you see every day. The guy who fixes the lights. The guy who smiles at you in the hallway. But behind that smile, he has been methodically planting explosives for months, hiding them in the ceiling and under the floorboards while everyone trusted him. At 8:45 a.m., your world ends. A massive explosion rips through the north wing of the school. The blast is so loud it is heard miles away. The roof collapses, turning the school into a tomb of brick and mortar. Survivors describe the scene that sounds like a nightmare. A pile of children trapped under the roof, with arms and legs sticking out from the rubble, unrecognizable because they were covered in dust, plaster, and blood. Panic ensues. Parents rush to the school, clawing at the debris with their bare hands to find their children. And then, Andrew Kehoe pulls up in his truck. People rush toward him thinking he is there to help. He isn't. He smiles, raises a rifle to his truck, and fires. The truck, loaded with dynamite and shrapnel, explodes. This second blast kills Kehoe instantly, along with the school superintendent and several bystanders who were just trying to save lives. When the dust finally settles, 45 people are dead, 38 of them children. Police later find another 500 pounds of undetonated dynamite in the south wing, along with a canister of gasoline intended to burn whatever was left. If that switch had worked, no one would have survived. But the most chilling part? The motive. Kehoe wasn't a religious extremist. He wasn't fighting a war. He was a 55-year-old farmer who was angry about his property taxes. He was mad that his money was being used to fund the school, so he decided to destroy the school and everyone inside it to make them pay. He murdered 38 children because he was cheap. And just to prove how devoid of humanity he was, investigators later found out that days before the bombing, he had murdered his own wife, Nellie. She had just returned from the hospital after being treated for tuberculosis, only for Kehoe to kill her and blow up their farm before heading to the school. He wanted to burn the world down simply because he felt slighted by it. These stories are a grim reminder that the world is a lot darker than we think. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more deep dives into history's craziest events, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Check out the video on the screen right now for more content just like this. Thank you guys so much for watching.